The red neon lights bathed the stage in an almost theatrical glow as the iconic Graham Norton show theme music echoed through the studio. The audience, a lively crowd buzzing with anticipation, knew tonight was different. This wasn't just another celebrity interview about a rom-com or a Netflix series. Tonight's guest was Elon Musk, tech titan, billionaire inventor, and, as Graham cheekily put it in the opening monologue, the man who makes science fiction feel outdated. As the band finished their playful intro, Graham leaned into the camera, his signature mischievous smile playing on his lips. "Tonight, ladies and gentlemen," he purred, "we have a real-life Tony Stark, minus the charisma, plus a few rockets that don't explode most of the time." The crowd erupted in laughter as Graham winked dramatically, his words sharp but sugar-coated in the British charm that made him beloved and feared by his guests. And here he is, the man who's trying to put us all on Mars, assuming he doesn't get lost on the way, Mr. Elon Musk. The audience leapt to their feet in a roaring standing ovation as Elon walked onto the stage. Dressed simply in a dark blazer, black t-shirt, and jeans, Musk moved with a nonchalant ease, the confident smirk on his face suggesting he was ready for whatever was about to unfold. He shook Graham's hand, took a seat on the plush red couch, and immediately crossed one leg over the other, leaning back as if he owned the place. Graham sat opposite him, eyes gleaming with the excitement of a mischievous cat about to toy with its prey. "So, Elon," Graham began, voice dripping with faux innocence, "I hear you want to build cities on Mars. Bold plan. Have you considered starting with fixing potholes on Earth first?" The audience laughed again. It was the kind of jab that could have made lesser guests squirm, but not Elon Musk. Without missing a beat, Elon tilted his head slightly and grinned. "Well, Graham," he said, voice calm and deliberate, "fixing potholes is what governments are supposed to do. I build spaceships because clearly someone has to aim higher." A roar of laughter, but this time it was on Musk's side. Graham arched an eyebrow, pretending to be impressed. "Touché," he said, "but seriously, isn't it a bit arrogant to think you can just colonize another planet?" Musk chuckled. "Is it arrogant to prepare for the future? If we don't expand beyond Earth, we risk extinction. I prefer insurance policies that work, not just thoughts and prayers." The jab was subtle, pointed, and devastating. Graham leaned back, feigning a wound to the chest as the audience cheered. But Graham Norton was not one to retreat easily. He flashed a wolfish grin. All right, Graham said, shuffling his cue cards theatrically. "But surely even you can admit not everyone's dying to live in a giant red dust bowl with no atmosphere?" Elon laughed. "Well, that sounds suspiciously like some parts of London, and people seem to survive here." The audience erupted. Even Graham couldn't help but chuckle at that. "You came prepared," Graham said, mock-accusingly. "I always come prepared," Musk replied, flashing a wink to the audience. For a moment, the battle seemed even. But Elon's relaxed demeanor, his quick wit, and his absolute command over the conversation were starting to shift the energy of the room. Graham, usually the puppet master, realized he might have invited someone who refused to play along, and the real show hadn't even started yet. As the audience's laughter faded into an electric hum of anticipation, Graham leaned forward, twirling a pen between his fingers like a sword ready to strike. "Now, Elon," Graham began, voice syrupy sweet, "you've been compared to everyone from Einstein to Bond villains. Which one do you think fits better, the genius or the megalomaniac?" The crowd oohed at the brazenness of the question. Musk simply smiled, completely unfazed. "Honestly, I don't mind being compared to either," he said smoothly, "as long as I'm not compared to talk show hosts pretending to be journalists." The audience howled. Even a few of the backstage crew were seen chuckling behind the cameras. Graham's eyes twinkled with both admiration and a challenge. He wasn't going to let Elon off that easily. He adjusted his cue cards again, this time pulling out a photo, a widely circulated meme of Elon smoking during an infamous podcast interview. Holding it up to the audience, Graham declared, "Now, is this the face of the future of humanity, or just someone who got lost on the way to a Pink Floyd concert?" The crowd burst into laughter again, some even clapping at the cheeky burn. Elon leaned in, glancing at the photo, then casually shrugged. Better to experiment with new ideas than to sit around recycling old jokes, he quipped, nodding towards Graham with a knowing smirk. Graham put the photo down with a dramatic flourish, giving Musk a slow clap. Touché again, Mr. Musk, but let's be honest. Sending billionaires into space sounds like a rich boy's summer camp. When exactly do the rest of us get to have fun? Musk leaned back, his face serious, but his eyes glinting. When the rich boys finish building the ride, he said, "You're welcome." The audience roared, louder this time, not just at the humor, but at the unmistakable truth behind his words. Graham tapped his pen against his mug thoughtfully, searching for an opening. "Fine," Graham said, a mock sigh in his voice. "Let's talk Twitter. You bought it, broke it, then tried to fix it by posting memes at 3 a.m. Strategy or a midlife crisis?" The jab was sharp, almost brutal. The crowd tensed, sensing blood in the water, but Musk didn't flinch. He merely smiled wider. "I find it's better to make jokes at 3 a.m., he said, than to make apologies at 9 a.m. A roar of approval thundered from the audience. Graham was momentarily silenced, caught off guard by Musk's cool counterattack. The balance of power on the stage was shifting, and the audience knew it. Still, Graham wasn't finished. He leaned in closer, his tone dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, amplified perfectly by the studio microphones. "But seriously, Elon, Mars colonies, AI chips and brains, autonomous robots. Don't you ever wonder if maybe you're the villain in someone else's science fiction novel?" Musk chuckled, but this time his smile was razor sharp. "Maybe," he said, voice low and commanding, "but villains in science fiction usually lose. I prefer writing the story, not being a footnote in someone else's fear." A long, stunned silence filled the studio before the audience erupted into applause, genuine, loud, and sustained. Graham threw up his hands dramatically. "Ladies and gentlemen, he came armed." Elon just gave a slight bow of the head, soaking in the energy of the room like a man completely at home. It was undeniable now. This wasn't a roast. This was a battle, and Musk was winning by knockouts, not points. The cameras panned across the crowd, capturing faces that were smiling, nodding, leaning forward in fascination. Graham, ever the showman, realized he was no longer the main act. Musk had subtly taken the reins, and the audience was more than happy to let him drive. Still smiling, Graham stacked his cards neatly, pretending to surrender. All right, he said, his voice laced with good-natured defeat. "Let's take a break before Elon builds a rocket and escapes this studio." The audience laughed again, but there was a clear shift. Elon Musk wasn't just the guest anymore. He was the moment. And in the next part of the show, he would finish what he started, in spectacular fashion. As the cameras resumed rolling and the lights brightened once more, a different kind of tension filled the studio. Not combative, but electric. The audience leaned forward in their seats, eager, almost rooting for Musk now. It was a rare sight. Graham Norton, the master puppeteer of late-night television, finding himself outmaneuvered, and the crowd loving every second of it. Graham adjusted his jacket theatrically and cleared his throat. "Welcome back. We're here with Elon Musk, who has graciously decided not to launch us into space. Yet." The audience laughed warmly, but the shift was clear. Musk wasn't just tolerating the jabs anymore. He was owning them, turning them into weapons of his own. Graham tried a different approach, switching gears into more personal territory. "Tell me, Elon," he said, voice silky smooth, "you're worth what, a couple $100 billion? At what point do you just stop? Stop working, stop building, stop tweeting?" Musk grinned. "When the problems stop existing," he said simply, "or when Netflix finally makes a sci-fi series that's actually scientifically accurate." The audience howled. Graham feigned offense, clutching his heart. "Ouch! Shots fired!" But Musk wasn't done. He leaned forward slightly, voice playful but unmistakably pointed. "Besides," he added, "I don't really work for money. I work because I'm allergic to boredom. Unfortunately for me, and fortunately for Twitter, Boredom happens a lot faster these days. The crowd exploded with laughter and applause, the kind that builds and builds until it shakes the walls. Even Graham chuckled, conceding the point with a small bow. Still, he rallied for one last shot. "All right, genius," Graham said, mock stern. "You've tackled Earth. You're tackling Mars. You're tackling free speech and AI. Any chance you'll tackle hosting a decent party?" Elon raised an eyebrow. "I threw a party once," he deadpanned. "It ended with a rocket launch. No one topped that." The audience roared, stomping and clapping wildly. Graham threw his cue cards over his shoulder in mock defeat. "You win," he declared, hands up. "You bloody win." But Musk wasn't just basking in the victory. He leaned into the moment, delivering a final blow, one that would be quoted across social media within minutes. "You know, Graham," Musk said, smiling warmly, "most people are afraid of being mocked. I learned early that if you're going to be laughed at, you might as well make sure you're laughing too, preferably on your own rocket." The crowd erupted, rising to their feet once again in a rare second standing ovation. Musk leaned back, entirely relaxed, while Graham stood and gestured toward him as if presenting a heavyweight champion. "Ladies and gentlemen," Graham announced, grinning despite himself, "the only man who could walk onto this stage, take every punch, and somehow launch us all to Mars by the end of it. Mr. Elon Musk." The band kicked in, the lights sparkled, and the camera captured Musk's calm, confident smile. A man who had entered a lion's den and walked out not just unscathed, but victorious. As the credits rolled, Graham shook Musk's hand with a genuine laugh. "You are," he said over the noise, "absolutely terrifying." Musk just winked. "You haven't seen anything yet." And with that, the show ended. But the legend of Elon Musk's masterclass on the Graham Norton Show had only just begun. Twitter lit up within minutes. Memes exploded across Instagram. News sites scrambled to write headlines about Musk's flawless victory and ultimate late-night domination. It wasn't just an interview, it was history.